Say that again. Who here thinks she doesn't belong in first class? The champagne flutes clink. Crystal against crystal. Soft laughter ripples through the cabin of Flight 447, somewhere over the dark Atlantic, $37,000 feet above cold water and colder judgment. Marcus Dalton adjusts his Patek Philippe, $85,000 if anyone asks, and glances back toward row 23. Seat 23C, premium economy. The woman there is curled against the window, worn jacket pulled tight around her shoulders, eyes half closed, scuffed sneakers, faded jeans, a small duffel bag shoved under the seat in front of her. "Look at that," Marcus says to Sandra Cole in 7A, loud enough to carry. Did she wander into the wrong section? Someone should check her ticket. Sandra sips her champagne, eyebrow raised. Honestly, Marcus, the standards have really dropped. I paid $8,000 for this seat. In 23C, the woman doesn't move, doesn't open her eyes, but her fingers tap once, twice, 3 times against the armrest. A rhythm, precise, unconscious. Nobody notices, not yet. Amber Pierce wakes when the turbulence hits. Not the jolt itself. She's been awake for the past 20 minutes, eyes closed, breathing slow. She wakes because the vibration pattern changes, a shift in the engine hum. Subtle. Most passengers wouldn't notice. She notices, her eyes open. The cabin is dim, bathed in that soft amber glow airlines use to lull people into sleep. Around her, passengers shift in their seats. A baby cries 2 rows back. Someone coughs. The seatbelt sign chimes on a single bright note that cuts through the white noise. Amber sits up slowly. Her gaze moves automatically. Exit row 24, 20 feet behind her. Emergency lights along the floor. Oxygen masks overhead. She counts the rows to the nearest door. 7. She checks the forward exit. 15 rows. 2 flight attendants near the galley, one checking her phone, the other restocking napkins. Her hand reaches for the overhead bin latch muscle memory, but she stops. Not yet. She doesn't need anything. Not yet. Instead, she pulls the duffel bag from under the seat in front of her. Old canvas military surplus. The zipper catches, then gives. Inside a folded t-shirt, a dog-eared paperback, a granola bar, and beneath it all, something small and metallic that catches the light for half a second before she closes the bag again. Flight attendant Melody Carson passes down the aisle, checking seatbelts. She's 35, lean efficient, moves like someone who's done this 10,000 times. But when she reaches 23C, she pauses. Just for a moment. Something in the way Amber sits back, straight hands loose eyes tracking exits, sets off a quiet alarm in Melody's head. Military Melody thinks. Maybe. Or law enforcement. But she doesn't ask. Not her job. Not yet. In row 10, Derek Sullivan glances over his shoulder. He's seen Amber too. The worn jacket. The cheap sneakers. The duffel bag that looks like it's been through a war. Probably visiting family, he thinks. Can't even afford decent luggage. He turns back to his laptop, dismissing her. Amber exhales slowly. Her left hand rests on the armrest. The fingers tremble. Just slightly. A tremor she's learned to live with. She curls them into a fist, then releases. The tremor doesn't stop. It never does. Through the window, lightning flickers in the distance. Far away. Not a threat. Not yet. But it's coming. In the cockpit, Captain Raymond Clark presses 2 fingers against his sternum. The pressure helps. A little. Not enough. Captain, First Officer Ethan Brooks glances over concern flickering across his young face. 28 years old, 18 months with the airline. Good instincts, but green. You okay? Raymond forces a smile. Just tired. Long night. It's more than tired. The pain started 20 minutes ago, a dull ache beneath his ribs that's been crawling up his chest like slow fire. He shifts in his seat, trying to ease the tightness. Heartburn, he tells himself. Too much coffee. Not enough sleep. Ethan doesn't look convinced, but he doesn't push. Instead, he taps the weather radar display. Sir, we've got something building ahead. Wasn't there an hour ago? Raymond leans forward. The radar shows a line of red and yellow stretching across their flight path. Storm cells, developing fast, faster than forecast. ATC aware. Yes, sir. They're vectoring traffic around it, but we're still cleared on course. Raymond nods slowly. The pain tightens. He swallows it down. Keep an eye on it. If it gets worse, we'll request deviation. Behind them in the first-class cabin, Marcus Dalton snaps his fingers at Melody as she passes. Excuse me, another champagne, and this time, could you make sure it's actually cold? Melody's smile doesn't waver. Of course, Mr. Dalton. Marcus leans back, satisfied. He's paid for this. First-class service, respect, deference. He expects nothing less. 2 rows behind him, Brian Weston types furiously on his laptop earbuds in Shutting Out the World. Every few seconds, he glances toward the window. The turbulence is getting worse, not much, but enough to notice, enough to irritate him. If this gets any rougher, he mutters to the empty seat beside him, I'm filing a complaint. Premium prices should mean premium comfort. In 23C, Amber listens. The engine pitch shifts again. A slight variation. The kind most people wouldn't hear over the ambient noise. But Amber hears it. She's heard it before. Hundreds of times. Her lips move barely audible. 7700. Squawk code. Emergency transponder. The number you punch in when everything goes wrong. In 14A, Harold Bennett turns his head. Slowly. He's 76, gray hair, cropped military short shoulders, still broad beneath his cardigan. He flew C-130s in Vietnam. 50 years ago, but some things you don't forget. That's an emergency code, he thinks. How does she know that he watches Amber for another moment? She doesn't move, doesn't speak, just sits there, fingers tapping that same rhythm on the armrest. Harold settles back into his seat, says nothing. Not yet. The turbulence hits harder. The aircraft shudders. Overhead bins rattle. A few passengers gasp. The seatbelt sign chimes again, 2 short tones, urgent this time. In the cockpit, Raymond Clark's hand slips from the control yoke. The pain explodes across his chest like a fist closing around his heart. Raymond Clark's breath comes in short, jagged gasps. Sweat beads on his forehead, soaking through his shirt collar. His left arm feels heavy, numb, wrong. Captain, Ethan's voice spikes with alarm. Captain, talk to me. Raymond tries to speak. His mouth opens. Nothing comes out except a wet, choking sound. Then his eyes roll back. His head slumps forward against the control yoke. Captain. Ethan grabs Raymond's shoulder, shakes him. No response. Captain Clark. The aircraft dips slightly as Raymond's weight shifts the yoke. Ethan catches it, pulls back, levels them out. His hands are shaking. His heart hammers against his ribs. He slaps the oxygen mask release, pulls Raymond's mask over his face. The hiss of pressurized oxygen fills the cockpit. Raymond doesn't stir. Ethan hits the intercom. Melody, I need you in the cockpit. Now. Medical emergency. 10 seconds. That's how long it takes Melody to reach the door. She punches in the code, yanks it open. Sees Raymond slumped in his seat. Sees Ethan's pale face. He's unconscious, Ethan says, voice tight. He was complaining about chest pain, then I'll get the AED. Melody's already moving, trained, efficient. Keep him breathing, I'll be right back. She steps into the cabin, closes the door behind her. Every passenger is looking at her. She can feel the weight of their stares. She lifts the intercom handset. Her voice is calm, professional. It has to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a serious medical situation in the cockpit. If anyone aboard has military aviation experience, repeat military aviation experience, please identify yourself immediately. Silence. The hum of engines. The creak of seatbelts. a baby crying somewhere in the back. Then Marcus Dalton stands up, tall, confident, commanding. "This is unacceptable. I demand to speak with the captain." Derek Sullivan stands too chest-puffed. "My brother-in-law is a private pilot. I've flown with him dozens of times. I can help." Melody opens her mouth to respond, and Amber Pierce stands. Not fast, not urgent, just smooth, deliberate. She steps into the aisle, moves toward the front. Her worn jacket hangs loose over her shoulders. Her sneakers make no sound on the carpet. Melody sees her coming. Something shifts in Melody's expression. Recognition. Not of Amber's face, of the way she moves, the way soldiers move, cops, people who've been trained to walk toward danger instead of away from it. "Ma'am," Melody says quietly as Amber reaches her. "Do you have aviation experience?" Amber nods once. "Former Air Force. I can assist." Marcus Dalton's head snaps around, his eyes narrow. "Wait just a minute. Who the hell are you?" Amber doesn't look at him. She's already moving past Melody toward the galley where the emergency equipment is stored. Her eyes scan the cabin status panel, mounted near the door. Most passengers don't even know it exists. "Cabin altitude 8,000, she murmurs. "Fuel 12,000 pounds. Pressurization normal." Melody's eyes widen. How does she know how to read that? Amber glances at the panel again, then at Melody. "First Officer Brooks is going to need help. Captain Clark needs medical attention. I can do both." Marcus steps into the aisle, blocking her path. "Hold on. You expect us to believe what exactly that you just happen to be a pilot?" Derek joins him. "Yeah. Convenient timing, don't you think?" Amber meets Marcus's gaze. Her voice is flat, calm. "Sir, your captain is having a heart attack. Your first officer has 18 months of experience and has never flown solo in severe weather. If you'd like to help, step aside. If not, sit down." Marcus doesn't move. "I've flown in corporate jets for 20 years. I know procedures. I know aviation. He gestures at her worn clothes, her scuffed shoes. "You look like you can barely afford a Greyhound ticket." Sandra Cole stands now too, phone in hand. "I'm documenting this. If this airline thinks it can just let anyone into the cockpit." Brian Weston's voice cuts through from 12C. "This is insane. We paid premium prices for safety, not some homeless woman playing pilot." Amber doesn't flinch. She turns to Melody. "The intercom, now." Melody hesitates, just for a second. Then she hands Amber the intercom. Amber lifts it to her lips. Her voice carries through the cabin, clear and steady. "This is Captain Amber Pierce, United States Air Force, retired. 800 flight hours in F-22 Raptors. Combat missions over Afghanistan and Iraq. I am offering assistance to First Officer Brooks." The cabin goes silent. Then Marcus Dalton laughs, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. "Captain, you let me see your credentials, right now." Amber lowers the intercom. "Mr. Dalton, I don't have time for—" "Then you don't go in that cockpit." Marcus crosses his arms. "I'm not letting some con artist talk her way into the controls of this aircraft." Derek steps closer, phone raised, recording. "Yeah, prove it. Show us a license, a badge, something." Brian's voice rises from his seat. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. DEI hires everywhere. Probably never even sat in a real cockpit." Amber's jaw tightens. Her left hand trembles at her side, fingers curling into a fist. She forces them to relax. Breathe. Stay calm. "First Officer Brooks needs help," she says quietly. "Every second we waste is a second we spend making sure you're legitimate." Marcus looks past her at Melody. "Flight attendant, I'm formally requesting that you verify this woman's identity before allowing her access to the cockpit." Melody looks between them, torn. Training says listen to passenger concerns. Training also says defer to qualified personnel in emergencies. But who's qualified? The woman in worn clothes, the businessman in the Armani suit. Ethan's voice crackles over the intercom, tight with panic. Melody, I need help up here now. Captain Clark's vitals are dropping. I can't. A loud thump from the cockpit. Something falls. An alarm starts beeping. Dr. Grace Mitchell stands from 9B. She's 47, gray streaks in her dark hair, calm eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Mr. Dalton, I'm a cardiac surgeon. I've worked with military pilots for 15 years at Johns Hopkins. This woman has the bearing, the responses, and the language patterns consistent with combat aviation training. Marcus doesn't even look at her. Doctor, with all due respect, you're not qualified to assess pilot credentials. And you are? Grace's voice is steel wrapped in silk. Harold Bennett rises slowly from 14A. His voice is a low rumble that cuts through the chaos. Son, I flew C-130 transports in Vietnam. 2 tours, 300 combat missions. That woman moves like a fighter pilot. The way she scanned the exits. The way she reads that panel. The rhythm she's tapping on her leg right now. He points. That's approach speed calculation, mental math, muscle memory. Marcus glances at Harold, dismissive. Then you're a fool, old man. Maybe. Harold's eyes are hard. But I'm a living fool, which is more than will be if you keep playing gatekeeper. Sandra Cole's voice cuts in shrill. I'm calling my lawyer. This airline is criminally negligent. You can't just let anyone... The aircraft drops. 500 feet in 3 seconds. Screams erupt. Overhead bins fly open. A service cart breaks loose, crashes into the galley wall. The lights flicker. Amber grabs the intercom mount to steady herself, but her eyes never leave the cabin status panel. She's reading the data, calculating. Severe downdraft, she says to no one in particular. Wind shear, we just hit the edge of the storm cell. Ethan's voice, near-breaking, Mayday, Mayday, Flight 447, single pilot severe weather, request immediate vectors. Amber looks at Marcus. Last chance. Let me help or watch everyone die while you argue about my resume. Marcus's face is pale, but his jaw is set. I want proof. Now. Amber reaches for the chain around her neck, pulls it over her head. A dog tag swings free dull metal, catching the cabin light. She holds it up. Marcus snatches it from her hand before she can say anything. He squints at the engraving. Pierce A. USAF. He looks up, eyes narrow. Anyone can buy these online. Derek nods, filming. Exactly. This proves nothing. Amber's voice is ice. Then call the Air Force. Ask for McGuire Air Force Base. Give them my name and call sign. They'll verify. Call sign. Marcus scoffs. What, like Top Gun? This is real life, lady. The aircraft shudders again. The engine pitch shifts higher strained. Amber's head snaps toward the sound. Engine 2, she says quietly. Compressor surge. Ice in the intake. Melody's eyes widen. How do you... Marcus shoves the dog tag back at Amber. I'm not letting you in that cockpit. Derek, call the authorities. This woman is trying to hijack this plane. Derek's phone is already at his ear. Yes, I need to report a potential hijacking on Flight 447. Hijacking! Amber's voice cuts through sharp. I'm trying to help. That's what hijackers say. Marcus steps between Amber and the cockpit door. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being manipulated by an imposter. Do not let her near the controls. A ripple of panic spreads through the cabin. Passengers crane their necks. Phones come out. Someone starts recording. Brian Weston stands pointing. I knew it. Look at her hands, she's shaking. You want someone with tremors flying this plane. Amber's left hand is trembling, visibly now. The stress, the adrenaline it makes the nerve damage worse. She curls her fingers into a fist, but it doesn't stop. Sandra's voice rises sharp and accusing. She doesn't even have identification, no badge, no license, just a piece of metal anyone can buy at a military surplus store. Exactly. Marcus turns to Melody. Flight attendant, I'm formally requesting that you remove this woman from the forward cabin. She's creating a disturbance, and endangering passenger safety. Melody looks at Amber, at Marcus, at the cockpit door, where another alarm has started beeping urgent, insistent. Sir, she says she's qualified. She says. Marcus's voice drips with condescension. Anyone can say anything. I say I'm the King of England. Does that make it true? Derek lowers his phone. Authorities want us to restrain her until we land. They're treating this as a security threat. Amber's jaw clenches. Her voice stays level, but there's an edge now. First Officer Brooks is alone in that cockpit. Your captain is dying. You have severe weather ahead and exactly one person on this aircraft with combat aviation training, and you're going to restrain me. If you're really Air Force bow, Marcus says, then you'll understand protocol. Chain of command, proper identification. You have none of that. Harold Bennett steps forward, but Marcus waves him off. Old man, sit down before you hurt yourself. Harold doesn't sit. Son, you're about to kill everyone on this plane because of your ego. My ego? Marcus's face flushes red. I'm protecting passengers from a mentally unstable woman who can't even keep her hands steady. Look at her. He grabs Amber's wrist, holds her trembling hand up for everyone to see. This is who you want flying. Someone who can't control her own body. Dr. Grace Mitchell pushes forward. Mr. Dalton, that tremor is consistent with peripheral nerve damage. It doesn't affect cognitive function or decision-making under pressure. I've seen surgeons with similar conditions perform flawless operations. Then let them operate on you, doctor. Marcus releases Amber's wrist, shoves her back toward the galley. This woman is not getting into that cockpit. The aircraft lurches violently. Lightning flashes outside the windows bright enough to wash out the cabin lights. Thunder cracks so loud it sounds like an explosion. Passengers scream. Ethan's voice over the intercom, barely holding together, "We're entering the storm cell. I don't have enough experience for this." Amber tries to push past Marcus. He blocks her, plants his feet. Melody, restrain her. Now, or I'll do it myself. Melody looks at Amber, at Marcus, at the crowd of passengers pressing forward, some filming, some shouting support for Marcus, a few shouting for Amber. Ma'am, Melody says quietly, apologetically, I need you to return to your seat. Please. Amber's hands curl into fists. The tremor makes them shake. She looks past Marcus at the cockpit door, 15 feet away. Might as well be a mile. You're killing us, she says softly. All of us. Marcus's smile is cold. No, I'm saving us from you. He turns to Derek, to Brian, to Sandra. Gentleman, lady, help me escort this woman back to her seat. Make sure she stays there. Derek and Brian move forward. They flank Amber, not touching her yet, but close, threatening. Amber backs up slowly. Her eyes never leave the cockpit door. She can hear the alarms through the thin metal. Terrain warning, overspeed. Stall warning chirp starting to sound. Ethan's voice cracking. Altitude 13,000, descending. I can't stop the descent. The aircraft drops again. Harder this time. Someone's suitcase explodes from an overhead bin, slams into the aisle. A woman screams. A child is crying. Amber is pushed back to row 23, to her seat. Brian Weston stands in the aisle, arms crossed, blocking her. Stay there, he says. Try to come forward again, I'll have you arrested. Amber sits. Her hands rest on the armrests, still shaking. She closes her eyes. Harold Bennett leans across the aisle, voice low. What do we do? Amber's eyes open. She looks at the cockpit, at Marcus Dalton standing guard like a sentinel, at Derek filming everything, at Sandra typing furiously on her phone, probably drafting a lawsuit. We wait, Amber says quietly, and we hope he figures it out before it's too late. Another alarm sounds, this one louder, more urgent. Stall warning, Harold mutters. He's losing airspeed. Amber nods, says nothing. In the galley, Melody stands frozen, heart pounding. She made the wrong call. She knows it, but it's done now. Marcus Dalton returns to his seat in first class, sits down, buckles his seatbelt, looks satisfied. Outside, the storm closes in. Ethan Brooks is drowning, not in water, in alarms, in responsibility, in the crushing weight of 312 souls, and a cockpit full of systems screaming at him that everything is wrong. Seattle Center Flight 447. His voice is tight, clipped. Request immediate vectors to nearest suitable airport. Static. Then, Flight 447 Seattle Center. All airports within range are below minimums. Portland indefinite ceiling visibility 1/8 mile. SeaTac closed for lightning strikes. Your only option is McGuire Air Force Base, bearing 090 distance 180 miles. Ethan's hand shakes as he adjusts the heading. Copy McGuire. What are the conditions? Flight 447 McGuire. Reporting winds 280 at 35, gusting 50. Visibility 1/2 mile in snow. Braking action poor. They're standing by for emergency equipment. Ethan swallows hard. He's never landed in winds over 30 knots. Never landed with visibility under a mile. His instructor would call those conditions minimums, meaning only if you have no other choice. He has no other choice. Copy McGuire. He switches frequencies, checks the radar. It's worse than before. Solid red directly ahead, yellow and green on the edges, but those are still storm cells. The aircraft is shaking now, not turbulence, but wind shear. The airspeed indicator swings wildly. 220 knots, 180, 250, back to 200. He can't trust his instruments. Behind him, Captain Clark is still unconscious. Oxygen mask over his face, pulse weak, skin gray. On the radar, something new catches Ethan's eye. A warning label in red text, severe icing reported. Pilot reports engine flameout. Ethan's stomach drops. He checks engine 2. Inlet temperature 240 Celsius. Climbing. Ice accumulation warning flashing. No, no, no. He activates anti-ice. Too late. Engine 2 coughs. The RPM gauge drops. 85%, 70%, 50%. Then a sound like a shotgun blast. The aircraft lurches to the right. Engine 2 flame out. Ethan fights the rudder, compensates for asymmetric thrust. His training kicks in barely. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Flight 447 Engine 2 failure. Single engine. Requesting priority handling. Flight 447 copy engine failure. Squawk 7700. You are cleared direct McGuire. All traffic is being diverted. Emergency equipment standing by. Ethan punches in the emergency code. His fingers fumble. He has to try twice. The aircraft is descending. He's losing altitude 500 feet per minute. He adds power to engine 1. The nose comes up slightly. Not enough. He checks fuel. 8,000 pounds. At this rate, maybe 40 minutes. McGuire is 30 minutes away in perfect conditions. These are not perfect conditions. His headset crackles. Flight 447, McGuire approach. Be advised, winds increasing. Now 300 at 40, gusting 55. Runway 21 ILS approach available, but minimums are 200 feet half-mile visibility. You are currently below approach minimums due to icing and single-engine performance. Recommend you declare souls on board and fuel remaining. Ethan's throat is dry. Flight 447 312 souls on board. Fuel 8,000 pounds, approximately 40 minutes. Copy 447. We're coordinating with Air Force Rescue. Medical teams on standby. Ethan doesn't respond. He's staring at the radar, at the wall of red, at the numbers on his fuel gauge ticking down. One approach. That's all he gets. No go-around. No second chance. In the cabin, Marcus Dalton grips his armrest. The aircraft is shaking harder now. Continuous. The windows rattle. Somewhere behind him, a woman is praying aloud in Spanish. Derek Sullivan has stopped filming. His phone is in his lap, forgotten. His face is pale. Brian Weston sits rigid eyes wide. "This isn't normal turbulence," he says to no one. This isn't. Sandra Cole's lawsuit draft sits unfinished on her tablet screen. She's staring out the window at the lightning at the ice forming on the wing, at the way the aircraft is tilting, yawing, fighting forces she can't see. In row 23, Amber Pierce sits perfectly still. Her eyes are closed. But she's not praying. She's calculating. Fuel burn rate at single-engine thrust, glide ratio with ice accumulation, approach speed for single-engine landing, crosswind correction for 40-knot gusts. Harold leans over. "You hearing this?" Amber nods slowly. "He can't do it." "You could." "They won't let me." Harold glances toward first class. Marcus is still there, still blocking the path, still convinced he's the hero. "He's going to figure it out," Harold says. "When it gets bad enough." Amber opens her eyes. By then it might be too late. The aircraft drops again. 300 feet, fast. The kind of drop that makes your stomach float. Passengers scream. Ethan pulls back on the yoke fighting. Come on, come on!" The stall warning chirps. He's too slow. He pushes forward, adds power. The warning stops. His hands are slick with sweat. "Melody," he says into the intercom, voice shaking. I need someone who knows single-engine approaches. I've only done them in the simulator. I've never static." Then Melody's voice quiet and strained. "Sir, the woman who offered to help, she's been forced back to her seat. Passengers are blocking her." Ethan closes his eyes, opens them. Then we're on our own. In the cabin, the lights flicker. Once, twice. The passengers gasp. Amber's fingers tap the armrest. That same rhythm, faster now. Harold recognizes it. That's landing checklist. You're running through procedures. Old habit. Might be a useful one. Amber doesn't answer. She's watching the cabin lights, listening to the engine, feeling the angle of descent through the seat. They're dropping faster than they should. Ethan's running out of time, and Marcus Dalton in his first-class seat still thinks he made the right call. The aircraft drops 800 feet in 3 seconds. Not turbulence, free fall. Screaming erupts. Seatbelts snap tight. Carry-ons slam into the ceiling, then crash down into the aisles. A flight attendant near the rear galley is thrown against the wall, crumples to the floor. In the cockpit, Ethan's headset is full of alarms. Overspeed. Stall warning. Terrain. Pull up. Pull up. He hauls back on the yoke with both hands. The nose comes up. Too fast. The stall warning screams louder. No! He shoves forward, levels out. The aircraft shudders, wobbles, then stabilizes. Barely. Altitude 11,000 feet. Fuel 7,200 pounds. Airspeed 190 knots and fluctuating. Ethan's hands are locked on the controls, white-knuckled. His breath comes in short gasps. He's fighting the aircraft, fighting the wind, fighting himself, and he's losing. In row 23, Amber's eyes snap open. She doesn't stand, doesn't shout, just speaks loud enough to carry to the front, clear enough to cut through the chaos. First Officer Brooks, reduce power to idle thrust. Let the aircraft settle. Ethan's head snaps toward the open intercom. What who? Reduce power. Stop fighting the turbulence. Let it ride. Marcus Dalton twists in his seat. She's still trying to interfere. Someone shut her up. Harold Bennett stands points at Marcus. Sit down and let her talk. Melody is already moving toward the intercom, but Amber's voice continues steady and calm. You're overcorrecting. Every time you pull back, you're loading the wings with more stress. Reduce thrust to 60%. Level the wings. Let the downdrafts pass through. The aircraft knows how to fly. You're just getting in its way. Ethan stares at the throttle levers. Every instinct, every hour of training says, maintain power. Maintain altitude. Fight the descent. But his training didn't cover this. He hesitates, then slowly pulls the throttles back. 60%. The engine noise drops. The vibration smooths out. The aircraft dips slightly, then steadies. The wild, bucking motion softens. Still rough, still shaking, but no longer trying to tear itself apart. Ethan exhales a breath he didn't know he was holding. It's working. Amber's voice again quieter now, but still firm. Check engine 2 inlet temperature. If it's above 200 Celsius, you've got ice buildup. Activate anti-ice manually. The auto system missed it. Ethan scans the panel. Engine 2 temp 220 Celsius. Climbing. How did she know he toggles the anti-ice? The temperature starts dropping. Slowly. Derek Sullivan is on his feet. Phone raised. This is insane. She's guessing. She got lucky. Dr. Grace Mitchell stands too, voice sharp. That wasn't luck. That was experience. Brian Weston shakes his head. Anyone can read off a checklist. Then why didn't you? Harold's voice cuts like a blade. She just saved us from a structural failure. You want to keep arguing, or do you want to live? Marcus is still in his seat, but his face has changed. Pale, uncertain. He looks at Derek, then at Sandra. Neither of them say anything. In the cockpit, Ethan keys the intercom. His voice is shaking. Ma'am, whoever you are, thank you. You're not out of this yet. Amber's tone is flat. Factual. You've got 90 miles to McGuire, single-engine heavy icing, and your fuel margin just dropped to critical. I need you to listen very carefully. Ethan swallows. I'm listening. Descend to 8,000 feet. Get below the worst of the ice. You'll hit more turbulence, but it's better than losing the other engine. But terrain, we're over the mountains. Minimum safe altitude for this sector is 7,000. You have 1,000 feet of margin. Descend now before you lose more airspeed. Ethan checks the chart. She's right. How does she know the terrain clearance? He starts the descent. Marcus Dalton unbuckles his seatbelt. Stands. Moves toward the galley where Melody is standing by the intercom. Enough! His voice is strained. This woman doesn't have credentials. She doesn't have authority. We don't even know her name. Harold steps into the aisle, blocking him. Her name is Amber Pierce, Captain United States Air Force. And if you don't sit down and shut up, I'm going to make you. Marcus looks at Harold. 76 years old. Cardigan sweater. Gray hair. Then he sees Harold's eyes. Marcus sits down. Amber's voice continues from 23C calm and measured. First Officer Brooks, I need you to call McGuire approach. Tell them you're declaring minimum fuel. Request priority vectors and emergency equipment on standby. Tell them, she pauses. Tell them Eagle is advising. Ethan blinks. Eagle, just say it. Ethan keys his radio. McGuire approach flight 447, declaring minimum fuel, requesting priority vectors. Be advised Eagle is advising. A long silence, then a different voice. Female, older, authority in every syllable. Flight 447, McGuire approach. Did you say Eagle is advising affirmative? Another pause. Longer. Flight 447, stand by for authentication. Ethan glances at the door separating him from the cabin, from the woman in 23C, from whatever she really is. On the radar, the storm still rages, but the aircraft is steady now, descending, holding course, still alive, for now. The authentication takes 30 seconds of static, of waiting, of Ethan staring at the radio hands still trembling on the yoke. Then the voice returns. Commander Lisa Rodriguez McGuire, Air Force Base. Flight 447, authentication confirmed. We have Eagle's service record on file. She is authorized to provide emergency assistance. Do you copy? Ethan's mouth is dry. Copy McGuire. She's in the passenger cabin. She's been blocked from entering the cockpit. A sharp intake of breath over the radio. Blocked by whom? Passengers. They questioned her credentials. Flight 447, listen carefully. Eagle has more combat flight hours than your entire airline's pilot roster combined. If she says jump, you ask how high. If she says descend, you descend. If she tells you to fly this aircraft upside down through a hurricane, you do it. Do you understand me? Ethan nods, then remembers she can't see him. Yes, ma'am. Get her into that cockpit, now. Ethan hits the cabin intercom. Melody, bring Captain Pierce forward immediately. In the cabin, Melody is already moving, but Marcus Dalton is faster. He steps into the aisle, blocking her path again. I don't care what some voice on the radio says. I want proof, real proof, not just someone's word. Derek joins him. Yeah. How do we know this isn't some kind of setup? How do we know she's not part of a hijacking team? Brian stands too. I'm not letting my family's safety depend on... The aircraft lurches violently to the left, not turbulence. Engine 1 coughs, sputters, the RPM gauge drops. Ethan's voice over the intercom, raw panic. Engine 1 fluctuating, I'm losing power. The cabin lights dim, flicker. The emergency lighting kicks in pale green strips along the floor. Engine 1 coughs again, then goes silent. The sudden quiet is deafening. No engine roar. Just wind. Just the whistle of air over the fuselage. Dead stick. Both engines gone. Ethan's scream comes through every speaker. Dual engine failure. We're gliding. Oh God, we're gliding. The nose drops. Steep. The aircraft is a 200-ton brick falling from the sky. Passengers are thrown forward against their seatbelts. Overhead bins explode open. Luggage rains down. Someone's laptop slams into the ceiling, shatters. Amber is already out of her seat, not asking permission, not waiting for approval. Brian tries to grab her. She sidesteps him, smooth, economical, no wasted motion. Harold shoves Derek aside. Dr. Grace trips Sandra as she reaches for Amber's jacket. Amber reaches the cockpit door, punches in the emergency code, 4 digits she shouldn't know but somehow does. The door swings open. Ethan is frozen. Eyes wide, hands locked on a yoke that does nothing without engines. Altitude, Amber snaps. 9,000 dropping fast. Airspeed, 180 falling. Amber slides into the co-pilot seat. Her hands move before her brain catches up. Muscle memory. Years of training taking over. She checks the fuel flow. Both engines showing 0. She scans the engine instruments. Inlet temps, normal. No fire. No mechanical failure, just ice. Massive ice ingestion. Both engines choked out. How long since flame out? 15 seconds, 20. Amber's fingers fly across the overhead panel. Engine restart checklist. Ignition on. Fuel pumps on. Starter engaged. Engine 1 cranks. The RPM gauge twitches. 10%, 15%, nothing. She tries engine 2. Same result. Cranking, no ignition. Altitude 7,500 feet. They're over the Appalachian Mountains. Terrain clearance 6,000 feet. 90 seconds until impact. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Amber's voice is ice. Flight 447, dual engine failure attempting restart. Souls on board 312. Commander Rodriguez's voice crackles back. Eagle copy dual flameout. What's your glide ratio? Best case 12-1. We're at 7,500 terrain at 6,000. Approximately 60 seconds to restart, or we're going in. Eagle, we're scrambling rescue. No time for rescue, Commander. I need engine restart procedure for ice ingestion at altitude. Standby. I don't have standby. Ethan is staring at her. At the way her hands move fast, certain no hesitation. At the way she reads the instruments processes, the data makes decisions in fractions of seconds. This is what a fighter pilot looks like. First Officer Brooks. Amber says, not looking at him. Maximum continuous ignition. Override the auto restart. Manual fuel flow control. I don't know how. Overhead panel. Red guard. Flip it. Ethan fumbles. Finds it. Flips the guard up, hits the switch. Amber adjusts the fuel mixture. Leans the engines out, then floods them. A trick she learned in Afghanistan when her F-22 ingested sand during a takeoff roll. Engine 1 cranks, 20%, 30%, a cough, a sputter, then roar. Engine 1 lights off. The RPM gauge climbs, 50%, 60%, 70%. Yes, Ethan's shout is pure relief. Not yet. Amber's already working engine 2. Same procedure, lean, flood, ignition. Engine 2 cranks, 15%, 20%, nothing. Altitude 6,800 feet, 45 seconds. Come on, Amber mutters. Come on. She adjusts the fuel trim, hits the starter again. Engine 2 coughs, catches, dies, 30 seconds. She tries again. Fingers flying, fuel pump, ignition, starter. Engine 2 roars to life. Both engines online. Ethan's voice cracks. We're online. Amber pulls back on the yoke, gently. The nose rises. The descent slows. 500 feet per minute. 300. 100. They level out at 6,200 feet. 200 feet above the mountain peaks. The cabin erupts in cheers. Crying, praying. Someone vomits from the stress. Marcus Dalton is white as paper. He's gripping his armrest so hard his knuckles are bloodless. Derek Sullivan has dropped his phone. It lies forgotten in the aisle, screen cracked. Sandra Cole is sobbing into her hands. Brian Weston sits perfectly still, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. In the cockpit, Amber doesn't celebrate. She's already running through the next problem. Fuel status, Ethan checks, 4,000 pounds. McGuire distance, 60 miles. Amber does the math. Single-engine fuel burned for 60 miles. Approach fuel reserve. Legal minimums. They're below minimums. Commander Rodriguez Flight 447. We are critically low on fuel. Request immediate clearance direct McGuire. No vectors straight in approach runway 21. Eagle, you're cleared. Straight in approach. All traffic is being held. Winds now 310 at 45, gusting 60. Visibility 3/4 mile in heavy snow. Braking action nil. Crash equipment is rolling. Amber copies the winds. 60-knot gusts. Crosswind. At night. In snow. With icy runway. Single approach. No fuel for a go-around. She's done worse. Once, in Iraq. She barely survived. Ethan, she says quietly, I need you to trust me completely for the next 20 minutes. Ethan looks at her, at the calm in her eyes, at the steady hand still trembling slightly, but moving with absolute precision. Yes, ma'am. Behind them, Marcus Dalton appears in the cockpit door. His face is a mixture of shame and desperation. Captain Pierce, his voice is small, broken. I need to apologize. Not now. Amber doesn't look at him. Sit down. Belt in. Shut up. Marcus nods. Backs away. Harold Bennett is standing in the galley. He catches Amber's eye through the open door. Gives her a small nod. She nods back. Dr. Grace is kneeling beside Captain Clark, checking his pulse. He's stable. Barely. He needs a hospital. 18 minutes, Amber says. That's how long you have. Grace nods, gets to work. Melody moves through the cabin, checking passengers, calming the panicked, helping the injured. The aircraft flies on. Engines running. For now. On the radar McGuire Air Force Base appears a small green dot against the red chaos of the storm. 60 miles. 18 minutes. One approach. Amber's left hand rests on the throttle. The tremor is worse now. Stress, fatigue, old wounds that never fully healed, but her right hand is steady on the yoke, and her mind is clear. She's done this before, just not in a 200-ton commercial jet. First Officer Brooks, she says, call out altitude every 100 feet below 1,000. Watch our approach speed. We'll be fast to compensate for icing. If I say go around, I need full power immediately. Understood? Understood. Good. Amber takes a breath. Now let's bring these people home. The storm rages outside. Lightning splits the sky. Ice builds on the wings faster than the anti-ice system can shed it. But inside the cockpit, there's a strange calm. Amber Pierce is flying again, and for the first time in 3 years, it feels right. Marcus Dalton sits in 8A staring at nothing. His Patek Philippe catches the emergency lighting $85,000 worth of metal and precision that couldn't save his life. The woman in the worn jacket just did. Derek's phone lies shattered in the aisle. All his footage, all his proof, gone. It doesn't matter anymore. Sandra's lawsuit draft is forgotten on her tablet. She's not thinking about money. She's thinking about her daughter, about the text message she almost sent, "I love you, goodbye." She didn't send it because of the woman they tried to stop. Brian Weston sits in 12C tears streaming down his face. He's thinking about the words he used. DEI hire, unqualified, dangerous. He's thinking about how close he came to killing everyone on this aircraft because he couldn't see past his own prejudice. In row 23, Amber's duffel bag sits empty. The dog tag is around her neck now, visible, real. Harold Bennett looks at it, reads the engraving from 3 rows away. Pierce A, USF, Eagle. He smiles, closes his eyes, whispers a prayer to gods he stopped believing in years ago. "Thank you," he says. And somewhere in the storm, maybe they listen. We're flying blind, single engine with icing, and 0 margin for error. Amber has 1 shot at this landing, no go-around, no second chance. What do you think is the one thing she needs to do right now to get everyone down alive? Drop your answer in the comments, we read them all. The aircraft descends into the storm. 18 minutes to McGuire. 1 approach, no room for error. Amber Pierce flies on. And the people who doubted her, the people who blocked her, questioned her, tried to stop her, sit silent in their seats, watching, waiting, praying she's as good as she says she is, because if she's not, they're all dead. Amber's hands move across the instrument panel with the fluid precision of someone who's done this 10,000 times. Throttle, trim, heading, altitude, every movement economical, purposeful. Ethan watches mesmerized and terrified in equal measure. First Officer Brooks. Amber says, not looking at him, "I need you to calculate our approach speed. VRF for this aircraft at current weight is 140 knots. Add 20 for gusts, add 10 for icing. What's our final approach speed?" Ethan's brain stutters. Math. She wants math now. 170 knots. Correct. We're coming in hot. That's faster than you've ever landed. It's going to feel wrong. Ignore that feeling. Ethan nods, throat dry. Amber checks the fuel gauge. The numbers stare back at her like an accusation. 3,800 pounds. She does the math automatically. 20 minutes at current burn rate. McGuire is 18 minutes away. No margin, no cushion, no second chance. What if we miss the approach? Ethan's voice is small. The question he doesn't want to ask but has to. Amber's answer is flat, final. We don't miss. She keys the radio. McGuire approach flight 447. Request current weather and runway condition. Commander Rodriguez's voice returns steady and professional. Flight 447, winds 310 at 45, gusting 60. Visibility 3/4 mile in heavy snow. Temperature -2 Celsius. Runway 21, ILS approach available. Braking action being updated, standby. 60-knot gusts. Amber's done worse. Once in Iraq, at night, under fire. She's still here. Ethan, when we're established on the ILS, I need you to call out altitude every 100 feet below 1,000. Watch the airspeed. Don't let it drop below 165. If it does, call it immediately. Yes, ma'am. Behind them, through the open cockpit door, Dr. Grace Mitchell leans over Captain Raymond Clark. His pulse is weak, thready medical term for barely there. She checks the AED pads on his chest. Ready, just in case. How long? She calls to Amber. 18 minutes. Grace nods. Returns to monitoring Raymond's vitals. 18 minutes. He might not have 18 minutes. Amber hears the unspoken concern. Pushes it away. She can't fly the aircraft and worry about the captain. Compartmentalization. First rule of combat aviation. Fly the plane. Everything else is secondary. The radar, still mostly useless, whitewashed by precipitation, shows a small gap in the weather. A corridor. Narrow. Shifting. Amber adjusts their heading slightly. Threading the needle. First officer. I need you to understand something. Her voice is quieter now. Not soft, just honest. When we're at 500 feet, I'm going to kick out the crab angle and align with the runway. The aircraft is going to bank hard to the right. It's going to feel like we're falling. We're not. That's crosswind correction. Do not repeat. Do not touch the controls when I do that. Understood. Ethan swallows. His hand hovers near the yoke. Training says, never let the pilot in command fly alone. Training also says, trust the experienced pilot. He moves his hand away. Understood, ma'am. Amber glances at him. Just a quick look. Sees the fear. Sees him fighting it. Sees him choosing trust over instinct. Good, she thinks. He'll make captain someday. If they survive the next 18 minutes. The aircraft descends through 12,000 feet. The storm is all around them now. No sky. No ground. Just gray and white, and the occasional flash of lightning that makes the instruments flare. Ethan's voice, ma'am, I can't see anything. Amber's eyes are locked on the attitude indicator, the compass, the altimeter. She's not flying by sight. She's flying by numbers, by feel, by the subtle vibrations through the yoke that tell her what the wind is doing before the instruments catch up. You don't need to see, she says. I can. In the cabin, Melody moves through the aisles one last time, checking seatbelts, stowing loose items, making sure everyone is as ready as they can be for whatever comes next. She reaches row 23, Amber's empty seat, the duffel bag still shoved underneath. Melody picks it up, zips it closed, secures it in the overhead bin. Marcus Dalton watches from 8A. His Patek Philippe shows 11:47 p.m. They should have landed in Seattle an hour ago. Should have been safe, comfortable, complaining about the in-flight meal. Instead, they're 18 minutes from either salvation or destruction. And the woman he tried to stop is the only thing standing between them and the ground. The radio crackles. A new voice. Still Commander Rodriguez, but her tone has shifted. Not just professional anymore. Something else. Recognition. Maybe respect. Flight 447 McGuire approach. We've pulled your service record, Eagle. Ethan's head snaps toward Amber. Eagle. Amber doesn't respond. Her eyes stay locked on the instruments. Rodriguez continues, and now there's an edge of disbelief in her voice. Distinguished Flying Cross, Purple Heart, Silver Star, 47 combat missions, 2 shoot-downs. You were declared killed in action, Afghanistan, November 2021. A pause. How are you alive? Ethan stares at Amber. The worn jacket, the scuffed sneakers, the trembling left hand. Dead. She was supposed to be dead. Long story, Commander. Amber says, her voice flat. Save it for the debrief. Copy that, Eagle. For what it's worth, welcome back. Ethan opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. You were declared KIA? Eyes on the approach first officer. But not now. In the cabin, Harold Bennett is on his feet. His voice carries through the rows, steady and commanding despite his age. Listen to me, all of you. Passengers turn. Some still crying, some praying, all terrified. That woman in the cockpit, Harold continues, is call sign Eagle. I've read about her. 47 combat missions. She once guided a crippled C-130 through a sandstorm using only radio contact. Saved 40 Marines. They gave her the Distinguished Flying Cross for it. Marcus Dalton feels something cold settle in his stomach. the Distinguished Flying Cross, one of the military's highest honors, and he'd called her a con artist. Derek Sullivan's hands are shaking, not from fear of the storm anymore, from realization. The footage on his phone, if it hadn't been destroyed, would have shown him blocking a decorated war hero from saving lives. Sandra Cole's lawsuit draft sits forgotten on her tablet. She's thinking about the words she used. Unqualified, dangerous, standards have dropped. She'd said those things about a woman who'd earned a silver star. In the cockpit, Melody appears at the door, something small and metallic in her hand. The dog tag. She'd picked it up from the floor earlier when everything was chaos. Now she reads the engraving. Amber's full name, service number, and below that, KIA 2021, killed in action. Melody's eyes move from the tag to Amber's back, to the way she sits straight, controlled hands moving with mechanical precision despite the tremor. "Ma'am," Melody says quietly, "your tag. It fell during—" "Keep it," Amber says without turning. "I've got another." Melody looks down at the metal in her palm, at the letters stamped into it, KIA, but the woman wearing it is very much alive. "How?" Melody asks. Amber adjusts the heading, half a degree, compensating for wind drift. "How what? How are you here if you were KIA?" "Because the Air Force said I couldn't fly anymore." Amber's voice is cold, empty. "Nerve damage, medical discharge. They declared me dead to close the file. Cleaner that way. No questions, no paperwork. Just a closed case and a flag-draped coffin." "But—" "I said not now, Melody." Ethan is staring at Amber's left hand, at the way it trembles on the throttle, at the way she compensates unconsciously, automatically shifting grip, adjusting pressure, making it work despite the damage. "Ma'am," he says carefully, "if you were medically discharged, why are you flying commercial?" "In coach," Amber's jaw tightens. "Because the Air Force said I was unfit. Because no airline would hire me with a medical flag on my record. Because I've been working as a flight instructor at a civilian airport in Colorado, making $32,000 a year teaching students who have a tenth of my flight hours." The bitterness in her voice is subtle, but it's there. "Your family, do they know you're alive?" "My father's dead. Cancer 6 months ago. My mother knows. She had to sign papers agreeing to keep the secret. Part of the deal when they extracted me." Amber's voice is matter-of-fact, clinical, like she's reading a checklist. "Now focus on the approach, first officer. We're 10 minutes out." Ethan swallows, nods, turns back to his instruments. But his mind is reeling. The woman next to him died, was buried, was mourned, and then came back, only to be told she wasn't good enough to fly anymore. The radio shifts frequency. A new voicemail, deep, carrying the kind of authority that comes from decades in uniform. "Flight 447, this is Colonel James Winters McGuire Operations." Amber's hand pauses on the throttle, just for a fraction of a second, then continues its motion. "Go ahead, Colonel." "Eagle, I flew with your father. Desert Storm, 1991. He pulled my wingman out of a SAM trap over Baghdad. Saved his life." A pause, heavy with memory. "I was at his funeral 6 months ago. Gave the eulogy. Your mother told me you were gone too." Amber's voice doesn't waver. "Things change, sir. I can see that." Another pause. Then, "Confirm your identity. Authentication code Tango Whiskey 7. The authentication code, known only to pilots cleared for classified operations, changed monthly, current only if you're still in the loop. Amber shouldn't know it. She's been dead for 3 years. "Tango Whiskey 7, she says without hesitation. "Authentication confirmed." The silence on the radio stretches. 5 seconds. 10. Then Colonel Winter's voice returns, and there's something in it now. Something that sounds like pride and grief and wonder all mixed together. "Copy, Eagle. Authentication confirmed. Welcome home, Captain. He switches to a different channel. Amber and Ethan hear him through the open frequency. All aircraft, this is McGuire Operations. Flight 447 has absolute priority. Runway 21 is being foamed. Medical teams are in position. Eagle is inbound. Repeat, Eagle is inbound. Clear all airspace within 20 miles. In the cabin, passengers are listening to the radio chatter bleeding through the intercom. They don't understand all of it, but they understand the tone. Respect, authority, urgency. Dr. Grace Mitchell leans across the aisle to Sandra Cole. Her voice is quiet but firm. Do you understand now she's not just any pilot? She's Eagle. Sandra's face is pale. Her hands grip the armrest so tight her knuckles are white. I tried to have her arrested, she whispers. I called her. I said, I know what you said. Grace's tone is sharp. We all heard it. 2 rows ahead, Marcus Dalton sits perfectly still. His expensive watch feels heavy on his wrist, meaningless. He'd judged Amber by her clothes, her luggage, her seat assignment, and she'd been wearing the invisible weight of a silver star. Derek Sullivan has his head in his hands. His law degree, his years of success, his confidence in his own judgment, all of it crumbling. He'd filmed her, called her a fraud, demanded she be restrained, a decorated combat veteran, a hero, and he'd tried to stop her. Brian Weston is staring at nothing. The words he'd used echo in his head. DEI hire, unqualified. Look at her hands. Those hands had flown 47 combat missions. Those hands had saved 40 Marines in a sandstorm. Those hands were about to save him, despite everything he'd said. Harold Bennett catches Brian's eye across the aisle. The old pilot's expression is hard, unforgiving. You should be ashamed, Harold says quietly. All of you. Brian nods. Can't speak. Shame is a physical weight pressing down on his chest. In the cockpit, Amber checks the distance to McGuire. 40 miles. 10 minutes. Ethan glances at her, at the calm in her face, at the absolute certainty in her movements. Ma'am, he says carefully, Colonel Winters said he was at your funeral. He was. But you're alive. Yes. How? Amber's voice cuts through, not harsh but final. First Officer Brooks, I need you to focus. We're beginning our descent. Call out altitude every 100 feet below 1,000. Monitor airspeed. If I tell you to add power, don't ask questions, just do it. Understood. Ethan nods. Yes, ma'am. But he's thinking, who is this woman? What happened to her? And how does someone come back from the dead? Commander Rodriguez's voice. Eagle, you're cleared, straight in approach, runway 21. Winds now 320 at 50, gusting 65. Visibility 1/2 mile. Braking action nil, repeat nil. Runway is solid ice. Crash equipment is rolling. Nil braking action. That means they can't stop conventionally. That means they're landing on a skating rink at a 170 knots. Ethan feels his stomach drop. Ma'am, if we can't brake, then we don't brake. We use reverse thrust and aerodynamic drag. Spoilers, full deployment. We'll bleed speed in the air, then settle onto the runway at minimum energy. Amber's tone is clinical, like she's describing a routine procedure. I've done it before. In a 777, in an F-22 with no hydraulics and a fire in the right engine. Ethan has no response to that. Outside, the storm rages. Snow streaks past the windscreen in horizontal lines. Visibility is measured in hundreds of feet, not miles. But Amber's eyes are steady on the instruments. Altitude 8,000 feet. Distance 35 miles. Fuel 3,200 pounds. 8 minutes to landing, 1 chance. No room for error. At 3,000 feet, engine 1 surges. Not a cough, not a sputter, a violent spike in power. The RPM gauge jumps from 75% to 95% in 2 seconds. The aircraft yaws hard to the right. Amber's hands react before her brain catches up. Left rudder. Aileron correction. Throttle back. The engine doesn't respond. Throttle malfunction, she says, voice tight. Ice in the fuel control unit. The throttle lever's frozen. Ethan stares at the engine instruments. RPM oscillating wildly. 70%, 90%, 85%, 95%. The engine is hunting, surging, and falling completely unstable. Can we shut it down? His voice cracks on the last word. Not enough fuel to restart if we do. We ride it out. Amber adjusts rudder trim, trying to compensate for the asymmetric thrust. Ethan, I need you to watch that RPM gauge. If it spikes above 95, call it immediately. Above 100, we risk compressor failure. Yes, ma'am. The radio crackles. Flight 447 McGuire Tower. Be advised, latest braking action report is nil-nil. Repeat, nil braking action on all surfaces. Runway is solid ice. Do you wish to divert? Amber checks fuel. 2,800 pounds. 6 minutes of flying time. Maybe. Divert where there's nowhere else. Negative tower. We're committed. Copy 447. Crash equipment is positioned every 500 feet along the runway. Medical team standing by. Crash equipment. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Ethan swallows hard. Ma'am, if we can't brake, if we slide off the end, we won't. But Amber's voice is steel. First Officer Brooks, I need you to trust me. I've landed on worse. Ice sand damaged runway, no runway. This is just another day. Ethan wants to believe her. He's trying. But his hands are shaking so badly, he has to grip the yoke to keep them still. The intercom chimes. Melody's voice shaky but controlled. Cockpit. We have a passenger requesting to speak with Captain Pierce. Amber doesn't look away from the instruments. Tell them we're busy. It's Marcus Dalton, ma'am. He says he needs to apologize. Amber's jaw tightens. Not now. But Marcus's voice comes through anyway. Melody must have led him near the intercom. His words are broken, desperate. Captain Pierce, His voice cracks. I was wrong. About everything. I almost killed everyone because He can't finish. Please, just get us down, please. Silence. Then Amber keys the intercom. Her voice is flat, empty of emotion. Mr. Dalton, apologies are for the ground. Right now, I need silence. Sit down, belt in, and let me work. The intercom clicks off. Marcus stands in the galley, face buried in his hands. Melody guides him back to his seat. He doesn't resist, doesn't speak, just sits defeated, broken. In the cockpit, Amber checks their position. 20 miles, 4 minutes. The ILS needles are centered. Glide slope locked. Localizer locked. They're on the perfect approach path. But the engine is still hunting. The throttle is still frozen. And the runway ahead is a sheet of ice. Ethan calls out 2,000 feet, airspeed 175, engine 1, RPM 92%. Copy. Ma'am, what if the engine surges during touchdown? Then I compensate with rudder and differential braking. Stay off the controls. Let me fly. 1,000 feet. The clouds thin, just slightly. Through the snow, runway lights appear faint, ghostly, barely visible. Ethan sees them. Gasps. I have the runway barely. Amber's voice is calm. Good. I've had it for the last 30 seconds. You could see through that. 50 combat landings in worse conditions. This is just weather. But it's not just weather. It's weather plus engine malfunction, plus ice, plus crosswinds, plus nil braking. It's every nightmare scenario stacked on top of each other, and Amber Pierce is flying straight into it, 500 feet. The runway is clear now, 2 parallel lines of white and blue lights cutting through the storm. The approach lights flash in sequence, guiding them down. But the aircraft is crabbed nose pointing 25 degrees left of the runway, compensating for the howling crosswind. Ethan stares through the windscreen. We're not aligned, not yet, 400 feet. Amber's right hand rests lightly on the yoke. Her left hand, trembling damage, declared unfit, holds the throttle steady despite the engine's erratic surging. 300 feet. Spoilers armed, Amber says. Gear down. Ethan reaches for the gear lever, pulls it down. 3 green lights. Gear down and locked. The additional drag slows them. 170 knots, 165, 200 feet. This is it. The moment that separates competent pilots from great ones. The crosswind correction. Amber kicks the right rudder. Hard. The nose snaps to the right, violent sudden. The aircraft pivots, aligning with the runway centerline. But they're still drifting left from the wind. Amber banks right. The wing drops. 10 degrees, 15, 20. Passengers scream. The angle feels like they're going to cartwheel, like the wing will touch first and flip them. Ethan's hands hover over his controls. Every instinct screaming, take over. Level the wings. Save the aircraft. But Amber's voice cuts through. Do not touch. He freezes. 100 feet. The aircraft hangs at the edge of physics. Banked. Drifting. Engine surging. Wind trying to push them off the center line. Amber adjusts. Aileron. Rudder. Throttle. 3 inputs. Simultaneous precise. The drift stops. They're aligned. Wings still banked. But aligned. 50 feet. Engine 1 surges again. 98%. The aircraft yaws right. Amber compensates instantly. Left rudder. More aileron. The motion is so fast Ethan doesn't see her hands move. Just sees the result, the aircraft staying on path despite the engine trying to kill them. 30 feet. Ethan's voice mechanical trained. 30 feet, 20. 15, 10 feet. Amber levels the wings. The motion is smooth, controlled, like folding a piece of paper. The main gear touches, firm, solid, exactly on the center line. Spoilers full. Amber's hand slams the lever forward. The wing spoilers deploy massive panels rising from the wings, destroying lift, forcing the aircraft onto the runway. Reverse thrust max. Ethan pulls the reverse thrust levers. The engines scream. The sound is deafening, a roar like the world ending. But they're still sliding. 6,500 feet of runway. They're using all of it. Brakes minimum pressure, Amber commands. Pulse them. Don't lock the wheels. Ethan presses the brake pedals. Gently. Release. Press. Release. The aircraft decelerates, but slowly. Too slowly. 5,000 feet of runway remaining. 4,000. 3,000. They're still doing 90 knots. 2,000 feet. Amber modulates the reverse thrust. Adjusts the spoiler deployment. Uses every bit of aerodynamic drag available. 1,000 feet remaining. 60 knots. 500 feet. 40 knots. 200 feet. 20 knots. The aircraft stops. 150 feet from the end of the runway. For 3 seconds, nobody moves. Nobody breathes. Then the cabin erupts. Cheering, crying, screaming with relief. Passengers unbuckling, hugging strangers, collapsing into their seats with their faces in their hands. In the cockpit, Ethan sits frozen, staring at his hands on the controls. Hands that did nothing during the last 30 seconds because Amber told him not to. Amber sets the parking brake, shuts down the engines. The sudden silence is almost painful after the roar of reverse thrust. She sits back in her seat. Her left hand is shaking violently now, the adrenaline wearing off, the nerve damage reasserting itself. Ethan looks at her, at the calm in her face despite the tremor in her hand. That was, he can't find words. You just standard crosswind landing. Amber's voice is flat, exhausted. You'll learn it someday. Outside, crash trucks surround the aircraft. Red and blue lights flash through the snow. Ground crews are running toward them. Ethan unbuckles, stands on shaky legs, reaches out to shake Amber's hand. She looks at his extended hand, then takes it. Her grip is firm despite the tremor. Thank you, Ethan says, for not giving up on us. Even after your passengers tried to stop me. Amber's tone is neutral. No anger, no bitterness, just fact. Ethan nods. First Officer Brooks, I didn't do this for them. I did it because 312 people deserve to go home tonight. That includes the ones who doubted me. She releases his hand, stands, walks to the cockpit door. Behind it, the cabin is chaos, relief, gratitude, tears, and guilt. So much guilt. Amber opens the door and steps out to face the people she saved. The cabin goes silent when Amber appears. 312 pairs of eyes turn toward her, some filled with gratitude, some with shame, all with the dawning realization of what just happened. Commander Lisa Rodriguez boards the aircraft behind a team of paramedics. She's 52 silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, Air Force dress blues crisp despite the storm. 2 stars on her shoulders, a combat action badge on her chest. She sees Amber, stops. For a moment they just look at each other, 2 women who've flown through hell, who've made decisions that cost sleep and peace but saved lives. Rodriguez salutes. Amber returns it, sharp, precise. Eagle. Rodriguez's voice carries through the cabin. I thought you were dead. So did I, Commander. For a while. Rodriguez turns to the passengers. Her voice shifts command mode, the tone of someone used to being obeyed without question. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Commander Lisa Rodriguez McGuire, Air Force Base. I need you to understand what just happened here. The cabin is utterly silent. Even the children have stopped crying. The woman who just saved your lives is Captain Amber Pierce, call sign Eagle, one of the most decorated combat pilots in United States Air Force history. Rodriguez pauses, lets it sink in. Distinguished Flying Cross for actions in Afghanistan. Silver Star for extracting a downed aircrew under fire. Purple Heart twice. 47 combat missions. Shot down twice. Survived both times. Marcus Dalton feels each word like a physical blow. In 2021, Captain Pierce's aircraft was hit by a surface-to-air missile over Kandahar province. She crash-landed to provide close air support for 30 Marines under attack, stayed in the aircraft despite being on fire until every Marine was safe. She was captured during extraction, held prisoner for 14 months, tortured, eventually rescued in a classified operation. Dr. Grace Mitchell is crying silently. Not from fear now, from understanding. She was medically retired due to injuries sustained in captivity, nerve damage, the same tremor you saw in her hands tonight. Rodriguez's voice hardens. The Air Force declared her unfit for flight duty. She disagreed, and tonight she proved us wrong. Rodriguez looks directly at Marcus, at Derek, at Sandra, and Brian. This woman was blocked from the cockpit, questioned, restrained, called a fraud, a hijacker, unqualified. Each word is sharp, accusatory. She saved you anyway. Marcus can't look at her, can't look at anyone. Shame is a physical weight crushing his chest. Derek Sullivan sits perfectly still, face white as paper. Sandra Cole has her hands over her mouth, shoulders shaking. Brian Weston stares at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Rodriguez steps aside. Paramedics rush past, heading for Captain Raymond Clark. Dr. Grace guides them, calling out vitals treatment administered. Amber stands in the galley watching them work. Her job is done. Time to let the medical professionals take over. Harold Bennett approaches slowly. He's crying, silent tears down weathered cheeks. When he reaches Amber, he comes to attention. Salutes. Amber returns it. Thank you, Captain, Harold says, voice breaking, for reminding this old pilot what courage looks like. You recognized me from the start, didn't you? Amber asked quietly. The way you moved, the way you assessed the cabin. Yeah, I knew, or suspected. Harold smiles. Vietnam teaches you to spot real warriors. You're the real thing. So are you, sir. They stand there for a moment. 2 pilots, 2 generations. Same understanding. Then Harold steps aside and Melody approaches. She's holding the dog tag, the one that says KIA 2021. Ma'am, this is yours. Amber takes it, looks at the engraving, the date she supposedly died. Keep it, she says, handing it back. Reminder that paperwork doesn't define reality. Melody nods, slips the tag into her pocket. The forward door opens. More personnel board. Air Force security, investigators. A man in a flight suit with eagles on his shoulders, full colonel. Colonel James Winters. He's 68. Gray hair. Lines around his eyes from squinting into too many sunrises at altitude. He sees Amber, and his expression shifts. Disbelief, joy, grief, all mixing together. Eagle. Colonel Winters. They shake hands. Winters doesn't let go. Your father, he says, voice thick. He would be so damn proud. Amber's composure cracks, just for a second. Her eyes shine. I hope so, sir. I know so. Winters releases her hand. We need to debrief. But first, he turns to the cabin. I need to speak with whoever blocked this pilot from assisting during the emergency. Marcus Dalton stands slowly, legs shaking. He looks 10 years older than he did 2 hours ago. That was me, sir. Marcus Dalton. His voice breaks. I stopped her. I questioned her. I called her, he can't finish. Winters looks at him for a long moment. The silence is crushing. Mr. Dalton, do you understand what you almost did? Marcus nods. Can't speak. 312 people almost died because you judged a book by its cover. Because you assumed wealth equals competence. Because you couldn't see past your own prejudice. Winter's voice is cold. Final. You're going to live with that for the rest of your life. I hope it teaches you something. Marcus sinks back into his seat. Broken. Derek Sullivan stands. Sir, I helped him. I filmed her. I called authorities. I know what you did, Mr. Sullivan. I've already seen the footage. Multiple passengers recorded it. It's evidence now. Derek goes pale. Sandra Cole rises shakily. I threatened legal action. I said terrible things. Yes, you did. Brian Weston doesn't stand, just speaks from his seat, voice hollow. I called her a DEI hire. I said she wasn't qualified. I said, he stops. I was wrong about everything. Winters looks at all of them. Wrong doesn't begin to cover it, but Captain Pierce saved you anyway. Remember that. He turns back to Amber. Ready for the debrief. Amber nods, picks up her duffel bag from the overhead bin, the same worn bag that Marcus had dismissed as evidence of poverty. Inside it, a silver star, a purple heart, a folded flag from her own funeral. She slings it over her shoulder, follows Winters toward the exit. As she passes Marcus, she stops, looks down at him. He looks up, eyes red, face streaked with tears. Captain Pierce, Mr. Dalton. Her voice is quiet, not angry, just tired. You don't owe me an apology. You owe yourself the truth. You weren't protecting anyone tonight. You were protecting your ego. She walks on. Marcus sits in the silence she leaves behind. Outside, snow still falls, but the storm is passing. The worst is over. Inside Flight 447, the passengers begin to disembark. Slowly, shakily, grateful to be alive. Every single one of them changed by what they witnessed and what they almost destroyed. 2 hours later, Amber sits alone in a McGuire AFB hangar. Emergency blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Coffee cooling in a paper cup beside her. The debrief is over. The paperwork started. Captain Raymond Clark is in surgery stable prognosis good. Amber closes her eyes. But she doesn't see the hangar. She sees Afghanistan, November 2021. The F-22 shuddering under her. Warning lights everywhere. The SAM hit had torn through the right engine. Hydraulics failing. Flight controls barely responding. Below her, 30 Marines pinned down by enemy fire. They needed air support. Needed her. Standard procedure eject. save yourself. Let the aircraft crash. But if she ejected those, Marines died. So she stayed, guided the dying aircraft, dropped ordnance on target, kept the enemy suppressed until the Marines could extract. Then only then did she try to land. The F-22 hit the ground at 180 knots, skidded half a mile, tore itself apart. She woke up in enemy hands. 14 months of interrogation, of pain, of counting days by the patterns of sunlight through a cell window. The rescue came eventually. Special operations, classified. But by then the shrapnel in her spine had damaged nerves. Her left hand wouldn't stop shaking. The medical board was clear. Unfit for flight duty. She'd argued, pleaded, demonstrated she could still fly. They showed her the regulation, the standard, the line she couldn't cross, so they gave her a medical discharge, a pension, and a closed file marked KIA cleaner. That way, they said. No questions about classified operations. Her father attended her funeral, accepted the folded flag, kept the secret. He died 6 months later. Never saw her fly again. Amber opens her eyes. The hanger comes back into focus. She looks at her left hand, still trembling, still damaged, still capable. Still flying, she whispers to the empty air. Still here.